Howdy YouTube. Mike Howell here for Naps, New Age Pipe Smokers. I hope y'all are doing well today. I'm doing pretty nice. Sitting outside of the Home Depot, rounding out my lunch break with some MacBaren HH Rustica. It's really good stuff. I love the HH series MacBaren tobaccos, which ironically are about the only MacBaren tobaccos I can smoke without them giving me horrible tongue bite. But the HH series are fantastic. They're billed as like very minimally processed tobaccos with no casings or toppings, just heat pressed to get that pure tobacco flavor. And they totally live up to that, every single one that I've tried. My favorites of the series, going, well, I don't know if it's least to most in my favorites. It's hard to put one over the other, but this would be going in ascending nicotine strength order from lowest to highest. Would be their Burley Flake, the Old Dark Fired, which is a dark fired and Virginia and a little bit of Burley blend. Then Bold Kentucky, which is a little higher in nicotine and is mostly dark fired Kentucky. And then you have Rustica, which is really a totally different animal altogether. If you look at those, the previous three blends, you've got the Burley Flake, which is a pure Burley, and then you have Old Dark Fired, which is dark fired and Virginia, and I think a little bit of Burley, and then Bold Kentucky, which is mostly dark fired Kentucky with just some Burley. And as the nicotine strength raises, the flavor profile kind of rises in proportion to that with the robust tobacco flavor. But then when you hit Rustica, the flavor doesn't really, it doesn't give you the idea that the nicotine would be as high as it is. It kind of breaks away from the trend of those previous three blends stepping up each in flavor and intensity. The flavor of Rustica is very different. It's somewhat floral, slightly incensey, but not in a bad way. And not in an overpowering way like some of the, like, you know, Lakeland topped blends can be. It's much more subtle than that. Almost like the floral sort of spice you get from Oriental leaf, but not really like that either. I'm not really sure what's the accurate way to describe it, because I don't think I've ever smoked anything else exactly like it. It has that bold tobacco flavor to it, just like bolder Burleys and dark Virginias and things like that, and especially dark fired Kentucky have, but it has something else entirely. The flakes are really nice looking, as are all of the flakes in the HH line. Nice and thick, and not super thick, but thick enough, and kind of leathery. They've got a real tough consistency to them. And the smell is kind of the same way as the flavor is. It's don't get me wrong, it's strong, it's stout, but it's definitely not a step down that same path that those previous three blends I've mentioned seem to be leading. Now, the reason that this blend is so high in nicotine, oh well, fuck. Just call me Chris Miracle. My fucking lighter died. Good thing I got another one. Wait, the reason that this blend is so high in nicotine is because one of the main components, Rustica leaf, is it's a different plant than what we normally use as tobacco, smoking tobacco. in pretty much all applications: cigars, cigarettes, pipe tobacco of any sort. That is all of a plant family that is Nicotiana tabacum. The Rustica is a separate plant family called Nicotiana rustica that is, I think I read that it was around 7 times higher in nicotine than most Nicotiana tabacum leaf varietals. Now, this entire flake isn't composed of that. It also has some Virginia, dark Virginias they specify, and some dark burleys in there to kind of modify out that flavor profile and have it so it's not quite that big of a nicotine punch, although it still is quite a nicotine punch. Nicotiana rustica is the first variety of tobacco that was that Europeans were ever exposed to. It was indigenous to South America and was spread throughout the North and South American continent by native people. And in the 1600s, Europeans came across the sea, and that was one of the things they took back with them was Nicotiana rustica, which, you know, it's a form of tobacco that we know, but you don't see much anymore. It fell out of popularity pretty well when, you know, Virginia and burley tobaccos started to be cultivated and developed and shipped around more. But they've changed a little bit of how they process it, made it retain some of its sugars and things like that, so that it's a little tastier, but it still has a very high nicotine content. But yeah, it has that incensey floral note that's spicy, it's leathery at the same time. It's a heck of a tobacco. As you can see, I've relit a couple times. Don't hesitate to relight this stuff. It's very leathery. It takes a few lights to get it lit. I think I usually have to do at least 2 charring lights before I can get my true light. But relights are not a bad thing. It's much preferable, especially in a blend like this, to just puffing away to try and get it up to heat, or if it's starting to go out, to try and build that cherry back up. It's not worth it. You just scorch the tobacco, and in the case of this blend, you'll probably bowl yourself over with the nicotine, because there's definitely some nicotine here. This blend is infamous for being a nicotine powerhouse, but it's not anything really too much more intense than some of the other high nicotine blends I've tried, like Bold Kentucky, or some of the Samuel Gawith ropes, and Gawith and Hogarth ropes. Things like Brown Irish X and Brown Bogey and things like that. I'd say it's about equal to those, maybe a hair higher. I don't know. It's been a little bit since I've smoked them, so I'd have to refresh myself to say for sure. But the trade-off is so much to me. The like, you know, the ropes like the Brown Irish X, they're really high in nicotine, and the flavor's not bad. I like them, but it's pretty monochromatic, pretty, I don't want to say boring, but kind of boring. This is just world and away so much better. It's getting up there in the top of my rotation. I'm gonna have to pick up a few more tins of it. I haven't gotten away from my old favorites like Haunted Bookshop and Bijou and a couple others, but I still smoke those almost every day. But I've been either starting my morning or getting just after lunch either a bowl of Rustica or a bowl of Bold Kentucky. Those have both really been high on my rotation lately. Daniel Seaman, he sent a link for a website that sells whole leaf, and they have straight Rustica leaf that you can buy. I think I need to pick up some of that and just ribbon cut it myself and give it a try, just to see what it's like, by itself without the addition of Virginias and Burleys. I don't know what the proportions are in this blend exactly. I don't think that MacBaren ever made that public necessarily, but I'd be really curious to see what the difference is in taste and strength. Just smoking pure Rustica by itself. Yeah, that's my thoughts on this interesting blend. HH Rustica from MacBaren. Props to the tinderbox next to my house for getting that stuff in. That's where I picked it up at. They didn't have a huge selection of tobacco tins before, just their normal house bulk blends and just a couple things on the shelf. But when I guess me and a couple people had asked them about it, they actually listened and got in a whole bunch of decent stuff. It's a little more expensive than buying online, but I buy a few tins there as often as I can. Stuff they have in stock that I want. Pick up cigars there just as it's worth spending the extra few bucks to support a business that's near where you live, that's an actual brick and mortar, even if it's a chain like a tinderbox, because those are a dying breed and they're worth having around. Yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on Rustica. I appreciate y'all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. And even if your day's not that wonderful, remember, I said it before and I'll say it again, the universe pisses down the back of your neck almost every single day, but it'll only drown you once. So keep your chin up. Have a nice one, y'all.